I never imagined a cleaning lady would risk everything to protect my special daughter. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The day I realized the world wasn't as safe as I thought. The day my heart shattered into a million pieces. It started at the school. I was there, waiting. The air was thick with tension. Kids dashed past me, laughter echoing off the brick walls. My daughter, Lily, was different. Sweet and sensitive, her eyes held a light that brightened the darkest corners of my soul. But that day felt different. When the school door swung open, panic rose in my chest. She stepped out, her face palely a fleeting ghost in the crowd. "Mom," she whispered, trembling. My heart raced. I heard bad things. Her small hand gripped mine, shaking. Weeks before, strange incidents had seeped into our lives. I thought it was just gossip. An unsettling energy swirling around our quiet town. Even the cleaning lady, Maria, who dusted the shelves of our neighbors, seemed to know more than she let on. I often caught her watching, her dark eyes intense, her fingers fidgeting with her rag. Nobody knew her backstory. She moved silently, but I sensed an undertow of intensity that others missed. Lily's fear multiplied each day. I watched her struggle with it, sitting up at night, her little hands clutching stuffed animals, eyes wide with terror. "Mom, they're coming for me," she told me once, her voice quaking, a jagged edge hiding beneath the innocence. I held her close, whispering, "You're safe here." But were we? The unease grew, spreading to my bones. I learned that Maria had been around whenever shadowy figures appeared at school events. I brushed it off. Coincidence? Then one rainy afternoon, a storm brewed, clouds roiling overhead like a brewing tempest. My phone buzzed with an urgent message. Maria wanted to meet. My breath caught. Why now? That day, when I arrived at the old diner, tension pooled in the air. I saw her seated at a corner booth, peering out the window like a hawk honing in on its prey. Her hands were trembling. "You must listen," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper, filled with dread. "They're coming, and they won't stop at anything." I felt the clench in my chest grow tighter. "Who's coming, Maria?" I leaned in, desperate to understand, and then, everything shifted. A shadow dashed past the window. My heart pounded, adrenaline coursing through me. "Mom! Let's go!" Lily's voice echoed in my mind, urging me to focus. Why was Maria so afraid? Every instinct screamed in warning as Mariah's haunted gaze locked on mine. "They know about her. They'll come for her if you don't act now." I turned to the door, heart racing, breath coming in shallow gasps. What did she mean by they? My chest tightened with every word. Had we unwittingly stepped into something far darker than I imagined? As I stepped outside, rain pounding the pavement, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. My life was about to become a whirlwind of secrets, fear, and betrayal, all wrapped around the fragile thread of my little girl's safety. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the rain pelted down, I moved through the chaos of the parking lot, my heart pounding a warning in my ears. Lily was still at home, blissfully unaware of the storm that was brewing around us. I rattled my thoughts, striving to hold on to clarity. I had to protect her at all costs, but how? The storm was fierce, both in the heavens and within me. My phone buzzed again, cutting through my anxious thoughts. It was a message from Maria, "Meet me tonight." Important. I hesitated, a pang of fear mingling with a flicker of hope. Maybe she had answers, a strategy, something I could use to keep Lily safe. But another part of me recoiled. Every time I had been around Maria since this nightmare began, it felt like walking through a minefield that I turned back towards the car, a familiar face catching my eye. Tommy, a boy from Lily's class. He was standing a few yards away, soaked to the bone, kicks splashing in puddles, his eyes wide and filled with that untainted enthusiasm only kids possess. He waved hello, oblivious to the heaviness hanging over me. In his innocence, he brought a warmth that battled the cold rain. I managed a weak smile, wishing desperately I could hold on to that moment. "Hey, Mrs. J. Looking for Lily?" His voice was bright, a contrast to the thunder rumbling above. "Yes, just getting home, Tommy." "You." I started, but my voice trailed off, the words feeling insufficient. "You be careful, okay? Stay with your friends. Always." He grinned, splashing away, and for a moment, I wished I could dive into his carefree world. Back in the car, I stared out at the rain, debating whether to meet Maria that night. The idea of facing whatever darkness loomed on the other side of that meeting weighed heavily on me. I wouldn't put Lily in further danger, but what if she was the key to unraveling this mystery? When I got home, the house felt colder, emptier. Lily was curled up on the couch, lost in a world of cartoons. I sat beside her, the glowing screen illuminating her face like a fragile candle. She turned to me, an innocent look of adoration in her eyes, and I felt my heart break all over again. How could I let fear blot out her joy? I had to keep her safe, regardless of the cost. "How was your day?" I asked gently, running my fingers through her hair. "Can we have ice cream after dinner?" she asked, her voice sweet and hopeful. "Absolutely," I replied. It was a small promise, a slices of normalcy in a sea of uncertainty. As I began dinner, my mind churned with images of Maria and her warning, the shadow past the diner window, and Lily's trembling voice. I stepped out to the garden to breathe in the fresh scent of wet earth. It was soothing, grounding. A few moments of calm to armor myself before I plunged back into the turmoil of the evening. Then the doorbell rang. My heart skipped a beat as dread settled in. I glanced through the peephole, surprised to see Maria, drenched from the rain, looking more anxious than ever. I opened the door, and her eyes practically bore into mine. "We don't have much time," she urged, rushing past me into the foyer. "They've been watching us for days. I can feel their eyes everywhere." "Who are they, Maria? You need to be clear with me." She looked around as if assessing danger, lowering her voice. "Listen, the people after Lily are not what you think. They'll come in the night if they think you're vulnerable." My heart raced again, panic rising like a tide. "What do we do?" Maria took a deep breath, her hands shaking. "For now, you need to keep her close. Don't let her out of your sight, and don't speak to anyone about what I've said. The moment you do, they'll know." Just then, Lily's laughter floated down the hallway, a sweet sound that brought some light to our grim conversation. I felt torn between my duties as a mother and the terrifying reality Maria laid before me. "Can't we just talk to the police?" I suggested, though the words felt hollow. Mariah's eyes widened, a mix of disbelief and fear. "No, you can't. That's what they want: disclosure. People will get hurt, and they know how to play the system. Trust me, I've seen it." As I absorbed her words, the weight of the situation settled like a heavy cloud. I was not just defending my daughter anymore, I was thrust into a war against shadows, and I was deathly afraid of failing. "Mom!" Lily called, her voice breaking the tension. "Just a minute, sweetheart." Mariah's expression shifted to one of urgency. "You need to leave tonight. Change your names, your location. It's the only way to ensure her safety." Her voice trembled more with each word, the tremor of it embedding itself within me. I stepped back, the walls feeling as though they were closing in. "You can't be serious. If you stay here, they will come." I promise you that. You can't stay invisible forever, Maria implored, desperation lacing her tone. And as if summoned by fate, the doorbell rang again. A deeper sense of dread washed over me. My voice trembled. Who is it this time? Silence hung thick in the air, and as I glanced at Maria, her expression morphed from urgency to horror. You need to hide her. Now. Instincts kicking in, I dashed to the hallway, my heart racing, breath catching again. Lily's laughter had faded, replaced by uncertainty. This was not a moment I was prepared for. Mommy? She called, a thread of worry creeping into her voice now. I found her, still sitting cross-legged on the floor, the television flickering behind her. But my eyes were drawn to the window outside where a dark figure now stood, partially obscured by the overgrown hedges. My stomach knotted as the figure looked toward the house, surveying, waiting that I froze, and a creeping chill prickled my skin as the gravity of Maria's warnings collided with the reality before me. It was happening. And I was caught in the crosshairs. The pounding at the door felt like a hammer against my chest. Each thud resonated deep within me, amplifying the chaos already swirling in my heart. I clasped Lily's hand tightly, a lifeline in the storm that threatened to consume us. The murmurs from Maria pressed against my ears like a relentless tide, drowning out rational thoughts. Hide behind the couch, Lily. Don't make a sound, I whispered, urgency coloring my voice. Her doe-like eyes widened with fear, but she nodded slowly, sensing the shift in the air around us. I watched as she scuttled away, the innocence of her childhood quickly swallowed by a reality that felt overwhelmingly heavy. With only a moment of hesitation, I grasped the nearest kitchen knife. It wasn't much, but it was a flimsy shield against what might lie beyond the door. The idea of confronting whatever darkness awaited was terrifying, but I steeled myself. A mother must protect her child. I was prepared to fight. Who is it? I called, my voice a fragile mask over the fraying nerves. I stepped cautiously to the side of the door, the shadows in the hallway growing longer and darker, the floor cold against my feet. Open up. We know you're inside. The voice was deep and guttural, menacing without needing to raise its volume. I caught a glimpse of the figure through the peephole before I could stop myself. Broad shoulders, clad in a dark coat that blended into the stormy night. It felt like a wolf in the guise of a man, predatory and unwavering. Mommy, Lily's whisper floated toward me, a small sound that clutched my heart in its delicate grip. Shh, sweetheart, stay quiet, I replied, forcing calmness into my tone as I eased away from the door. My pulse quickened as I searched for an escape route. Behind me, the back door was ajar, swinging ominously in the breeze. Maybe we could slip away, maybe, but the door behind me creaked open, and terror filled my veins, freezing me in my tracks. Maria stood there, pale and breathless, her urgency practically oozing from her pores. What are you doing? I hissed, panic clawing at me that I needed to see. She began, her gaze flitting to the door, and the figure outside, now pounding harder, demanding entrance. You have to trust me. We don't have time. That a loud crack of thunder drowned out her protest, and I took a moment to glance at Lily, her small frame silhouetted by the flickering light of the television, eyes wide, confusion settling in. I turned back to Maria. What do we do? Stay with her. It'll distract them, she said, her voice steady but laced with an undercurrent of fear. You need to find a place to hide after I create a diversion. It'll call for help. The notion filled me with dread. No. I can't let you. Lily is more important than me. You know that. Maria cut me off, intensity turning her words into an imperious command. I felt a strange blend of anger and gratitude toward her bravery, a surge of conflicting emotions crashing like waves against a cliff. Okay, I relented, my heart hammering as I looked at my daughter one more time before releasing Maria to the storm of chaos. Just be careful, she nodded, urgency propelling her toward the front door, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the storm inside was far less threatening than the one unfolding before us. With steady breaths, I crouched down to Lily, my heart racing. Sweetheart, we need to be very quiet, okay? Can you do that for Mommy? She nodded, her eyes shining with unshed tears, but she held her silence, curling into the tightest ball she could manage behind the couch. I placed a soft hand on her back, feeling her warmth seep through my skin even amidst the fear that prickled the air like 1,000 needles. The front door creaked open, and I focused on the figure slipping through the threshold. No longer standing outside, the shadow loomed, two metal bracelets glinting menacingly in the half-light. I couldn't hear the words exchanged, but Mariah's tone was aggressive, her defiance a stark contrast to the weight of terror that enveloped me like a fog. "Get away from her!" Maria shouted, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. I couldn't make out the figure's response, but the tension escalated as I clutched the knife, a beacon of desperation. I closed my eyes, praying silently for whatever divine help could shield us in this unfathomable situation. Moments stretched, filled with uncertainty, every second stretching endlessly. Suddenly, a crash erupted, and the unmistakable sound of shuffling feet slapped against the wooden floor. My heart raced as shouts erupted. I leaned back, nearly losing my breath. Then it happened. A flash of light illuminated the room, a harsh beam slicing through the dimness. "Look for the girl." A growl echoed from the intruder, the urgency in that command wrapping itself around my throat, threatening to suffocate me. I jolted, my instincts roaring to life. They were hunting Lily. I had to move fast. Lily stared at me from behind the couch, mouth covered in both fear and a desire to stay silent. My heart shattered at the sight of her innocence trapped in all this madness. As I reeled, my mind worked furiously. Should I make a desperate dash for the back door? Out into the pouring rain, into the night, or should we stay hidden here? But before my mind could finalize a plan, the front door flew open violently. Maria was thrown against the wall, crashing to the ground, her eyes wide with terror. "No!" I screamed, instinctively stepping out from behind the couch, the knife gripped tightly in my fist, but the shadowed figure turning toward me stole my breath away. It wasn't the face I expected, instead, it was a man I never thought I would see again, a figure from my past long presumed dead. "Surprise," he sneered, a malicious grin breaking across his face, the storm outside nowhere near as chaotic as the one brewing in my heart. Everything I once believed shattered in an instant, the layers of safety I had built around us evaporating like smoke. The ground beneath me seemed to buckle, my heart thrumming in anticipation of a truth I was not ready to face. In the wake of his revelation, I stumbled back, my world tilting dangerously. This night had transformed into a tempest, and I was undeniably caught in its eye. The weight of his presence filled the room, a specter from my past wrapped in uncertainty and dread. My heart raced, each beat echoing the fleeting moments of a life I thought I had left behind. "You," I breathed, my voice barely a whisper. I couldn't comprehend the whirlwind of emotions crashing inside me: fear, confusion, a flicker of something potentially sinister. "Surprised to see me?" he taunted, stepping further into the dim light, his eyes cold and sharp like flint. The room felt smaller, each breath more suffocating as reality twisted into something grotesque. He was the one man I had thought I would never have to face again. "Stay away from my daughter," I shouted, summoning every ounce of resolve within me. My hands trembled as I tightened my grip on the knife, its small size felt pitiful in comparison to the threat he posed. His laughter filled the space, an echo of madness tinged with something deeper. "She's just a pawn in this game, you know. You should have learned that by now." Lily's wide eyes peered at me from behind the couch, confusion blurring the terror etched upon her face. Despite the chaos, my heart ached to protect her at all costs. I couldn't let him take her, I wouldn't let his words seep into her innocence. "Maria," I called, desperate to pull my friend back into the fray, but she lay against the wall, dazed and disoriented. A flicker of concern swept through me, but I forced myself to stay focused on the threat standing before me. "What do you want?" He stepped closer, the shadows embracing him like an old friend. "What I want is irrelevant. It's what you're going to sacrifice that matters." Each word dripped with venom, wrapping around my heart like a vice. "You can't save her, not from this chaos you've inadvertently unleashed." Panic surged, a primal instinct urging me to flee, to shield my child at all costs. I took a deep breath, grounding myself. You're wrong. I won't let you hurt her. Is that so? He reached into his coat, and I instinctively took a step back, knife poised before me, adrenaline fueling my fight or flight response. But what could I really do against the darkness threatening to close in? A sudden crash of thunder outside reminded me of the storm raging beyond the walls, a fitting backdrop for the turmoil swirling in my heart. It was a grotesque reminder of the life I had fought so hard to escape. I reminded myself of the love I had for Lily, and the courage that love summoned within me. Your strength means nothing without knowledge of the game, he said, the grin on his face growing disturbingly wide as if to mock my desperation. In my periphery, I caught a flash of movement. Maria had risen, her expression transformed from defeat to fierce determination. Get away from them! She shrieked, lunging forward with something gleaming in her hand, a broken piece of a kitchen stool, a desperate weapon. Before I could process her sudden bravery, he turned and deflected her attack with a swift motion, sending her crashing to the ground again. For a split second, a glimmer of hope sparked within me, igniting the embers of resilience. Maria! The look of fierce resolve in her eyes struck me, a reminder that we were not alone in this nightmare. She struggled to rise, but the pain of the fall had knocked her breathless. I can't hold him off forever, she gasped. Ink-black shadows danced as the storm continued its assault outside, rain splattering against the windows. Infinity shifted in that moment, revealing possibilities hidden behind clouds of darkness. You have to protect her, Lynn. Maria cried, forcing herself to stand tall despite her injuries. You are her only chance. Drawing strength from Maria's unwavering support, I focused on the threat before me. You chose to come back into our lives, and now you'll regret it, I warned, voice trembling but fierce. He advanced slowly, each step intentional, eyes glinting with malicious glee. Regret? Oh, this is only the beginning. The real joy comes when you have to decide what you're willing to sacrifice to keep her safe. His words cut through me, a chilling realization seeping into my bones. What would I sacrifice? I had already lost so much, but losing Lily would rend my soul completely. Run, Lily! I yelled, heart racing. From the shadows, the silhouette of my daughter slipped cautiously from behind the couch, her small hand reaching for mine while her eyes beseeched understanding. Mommy? Uncertainty coiled around me like a serpent, but I knelt, urging her to stay away from the chaos. Go to the back door. I'll be right there. Just a little farther, love. Instinctively, she shook her head, trembling with uncertainty but refusing to leave my side. Her resolve anchored me in that moment, a wave of calm washing over even amidst a tempest. No. He roared, rage sparking across his features, but we stayed rooted together, a tether of hope in our darkest hour. I could think less about sacrifice and more about strength, about unity. An idea began to form, but I needed time, a few precious seconds to tip the balance in our favor. Remember what you taught me, Lynn. He said, voice low and menacing. You taught me that every pawn can become a queen. That unsettling grin taunted me, threatening to unravel every thread of hope. Everything I had fought for throughout my life was teetering on the edge of oblivion, and I could feel our fate slipping away like sand through my fingers. And then, as if the universe were conspiring against us, the lights flickered and went out, leaving us enveloped in an inky darkness. Lily! I yelled, but the fear wrapped itself around my heart like a vice. No! His voice, now a menacing whisper, echoed through the black void. Welcome to the game, Lynn. Are you ready to play? In the suffocating silence, I felt the walls close in, the weight of the situation bearing down upon me. There was no way to know what awaited us in the dark or how long we would endure within its grasp. The stakes had never been higher, and as I stood there, hand gripping a flimsy knife, I knew this fight was only just beginning. The fear biting at my heels was overshadowed by a resolve that had ignited inside me like lightning, begging to unleash itself. But with helpless whispers of darkness around us, I could only hope that the light of morning would find us before it was too late. The silence weighed heavily, thick and unnerving, as I strained my ears against the darkness. Each breath felt monumental, a desperate prayer against the encroaching fear threatening to swallow us whole. I could feel Lily's small hand gripping mine, her tremor vibrated through my very core, a reminder of what we were fighting to protect. "Stay close to me," I murmured, not sure whether to comfort her or myself. With careful steps, I maneuvered through the suffocating blackness, my heart racing as I strained to hear anything beyond the rhythmic drumming of rain on the windows. I couldn't see him, but I could sense his presence, a predatory stillness lurking just beyond reach. "Maria, are you okay?" I called, my voice barely above a whisper. "That I am here," she replied, her voice steady despite the tremor beneath it. "Just keep your eyes on him. He'll find a way to distract him." The determination in her voice ignited a flicker of hope within me. She was refusing to succumb to fear, even in her vulnerable state. I thought back to the countless times we'd navigated storms together, leaning on one another, finding strength in our friendship. I needed to channel that energy now more than ever. "Lily," I said softly, my gaze flicking to her eyes, drawn in by the innocence still dancing there despite our dire circumstances. "We have to be brave. Just like you've always been." Fear swirled in her gaze, but she nodded, her grip on my hand tightening. In that moment, we were bound by an unspoken promise: we wouldn't let darkness consume us. From the shadows, I heard a low, sinister chuckle that clawed at my sanity. "Courage is futile, my dear. You can't protect her from what's coming." That I instinctively pulled Lily closer, reminding myself that every beat of my heart was a testament to our fight. "Get out of our lives," I cried, hoping the fervor of my words would wrench us free from his chilling grip. "That I am afraid you misunderstand the situation," he replied, each word measured, like a taunting metronome counting down to inevitable disaster. "You invited chaos back into your life when you decided to fight." "Fight for what, exactly?" I spat back, desperately grasping at the threads of my resolve. "For love. Hope. A chance to live a life away from you." A flicker of light illuminated the room, and for a split second, I saw the depth of malice in his eyes. "Ah, but love is the ultimate weakness, isn't it?" he mused, his lips curling into a smirk. "You'll see how quickly it can turn into a weapon against you." The lights flickered and hummed back to life, momentarily bolstering my resolve. I could see Maria now, a formidable force even in her weakened state, pressing herself against a wall, struggle etched upon her face. "I have an idea," she shouted over the murmur of thunder, voice rising in the din. "Lynn, can you get to the kitchen? The two of us can work together to trap him." My heart hammered in response, the urgency of the moment coiling within me. There was power in numbers. "Yes, we can do this," I responded, drawing upon Mariah's infectious bravery. "Lily, stay right behind me." We edged toward the kitchen, the shadows still swirling in the periphery, but the glow of the overhead lights became an anchor, illuminating our desperate path. Clarity surfaced amidst the chaos. This was not merely a fight for our lives, but for our very essence, our hope, our love, and the sanctity of our family. As we reached the kitchen doorway, I spotted the old butcher's knife resting against the cutting board. It gleamed invitingly, as if wanting to be held, to partake in our fight. I grabbed it, steel against my palms grounding me as I turned to face him. "Come any closer, and I swear I'll do whatever it takes to protect my family," I warned. He stepped forward, a dark smile creeping across his face, his confidence seemingly unshakable. "Protecting her will be your downfall, Lynn. Family bonds can be twisted, manipulated. Who do you think will pay the price for your defiance?" Before I could respond, a blaring crash rattled the kitchen window, a flash of lightning illuminating the room. And at that moment, in stark contrast to the storm outside, I saw Lily's face, reflecting both fear and determination. It was in that fleeting expression I felt my heart align with a new resolve. "We're stronger than you think," I declared, the noise of the storm harmonizing with an unprecedented fire igniting within me. But just as the tide seemed to swell in our favor, the lights flickered again, struggling to hold against the force of the tempest outside. And then, just as I prepared to lead us into the light, he lunged. "Lynn, With a scream erupting from the depths of my being, I swung the knife, but it connected with nothing but air and darkness, slipping from my grasp as I stumbled backward. My world spun, chaos reigning supreme, the echo of his laughter thrumming like a drum heralding defeat. "Your precious daughter," he hissed, eyes glinting with merciless victory as I grasped at everything slipping away. "What price will you be willing to pay for her?" A sharp gasp echoed from my daughter as he swept past me, his intentions shrouded in an even deeper darkness. I felt an icy grip upon my heart. In that agonizing moment, I realized the peril we were truly in, and with dread pooling in my stomach, I understood the true nature of the game, and I was suddenly left gasping as everything we stood for hung in the balance, teetering on the edge of an unfathomable sacrifice. The storm outside roared with defiance, a wicked symphony that mirrored the tumult within my own heart. Time seemed to stretch and bend as I fought against the rising wave of despair surging through me. Mariah's face, pale and determined, became the anchor in my chaotic world. I couldn't let her down. I couldn't let Lily down. "Stay back!" I shouted, my voice reaching a fever pitch as the rain lashed against the kitchen window, drowning out the thunder that bore down upon us. The shadows seemed to pulse and writhe, each movement an echo of my fear. He was getting closer, his laughter a dark melody tormenting our resolve. "Time is ticking, Lynn," he taunted, stepping forward with devilish confidence. "How long do you think you can keep up this act? Love can only blind you for so long, and when the darkness encroaches, what will you do then? Will you sacrifice your own flesh and blood to save yourself?" Lily's terrified eyes snapped to mine, glimmering with an innocent confusion that sliced deeper than any blade. "Mom, I'm scared," she whispered, her voice trembling like the fragile flicker of candlelight in a storm. That I knelt, bringing myself to her level, clutching her small shoulders with urgency. "Lily, listen to me. You're the bravest girl I know. Whatever he says, it's not true. We are stronger together, and I will fight for you. I will protect you no matter the cost." That a flicker of understanding danced across her expression, as if my words chased away some of the shadows darkening her heart. "I trust you, Mom," she said softly, brave in her vulnerability. It was that trust that fueled the fire within me, burning fiercely against the encroaching darkness. Maria shuffled behind me, her breath shaky but the resolve in her voice unwavering. "Let's find a way out. We don't have to face him head-on. If we can lure him into the hallway it might buy us time." "Lure him?" I questioned, the very thought sending tremors through me, casting us further into risk's grasp. But we had no choice. The mere thought of giving up was unacceptable. "Yes, we play his game," she said with steely determination. "It'll create a diversion. Lynn, you and Lily need to get out of the kitchen. Draw him away from her." The strategy sent icy fingers prickling along my spine. "And if it doesn't work?" I stammered, my fear clawing at my throat. "What if he goes after you instead?" "It's a risk we have to take," Maria replied, her voice firm yet tender, knowing how deeply I cared for her as if she were my very own flesh and blood. "I'm not going to let him win. Not now, when we're so close to reclaiming our lives." That my heart ached at the weight of her bravery, but the urgency of the moment demanded action. I nodded, swallowing my fears as I caught Lily's frightened gaze. "We need to trust her," I whispered, and in that moment, I felt the ties of our little family grow even stronger. My own echoes of love entangling us as one. "Okay, Maria," I said, determination seeping into my bones. "Let's do it." As Maria began to inch toward the entrance, her presence radiating courage despite the shadows, the man in the room snarled. "You don't think you can escape me, do you?" His voice dripped with malice, cloaked in a false bravado that cut deeper than any physical threat. The storm's intensity mirrored the battle that raged within. I glanced around to ensure Lily was by my side when lightning flashed, illuminating the room for just a moment, and I grabbed her hand once more. Maria began feigning a hiccuping laugh, loud and exaggerated, drawing immediate attention. "Is this the best you've got? I'd expected a more grand performance." She shouted defiantly, painting herself a target in the cruel game we were forced to play. Just as we had planned, the dark figure turned sharply towards her, a smirk creeping across his face, relishing the blatant challenge. You think you can provoke me? A foolish attempt, my dear, but oh, how entertaining your little act is. Come and get me. Maria cried, her voice filled with a beguiling mix of defiance and tension. Underneath, I sensed the desperation lurking, coiling and tightening around us all like the shadows that threatened to close in. With loud, purposeful strides, he moved toward her, eyes fixated in excitement like a predator spotting its prey. Lily squeezed my hand tighter, her grip a reminder of what I was fighting for. Now. I hissed the command, pulling Lily along with me as we rushed toward the hallway, desperately trying to draw him away from Maria, our one chance of breaking free from his game. But as we darted into the hallway, Lily's foot slipped, and she stumbled against the wall. I turned in sheer panic. Lily, no. In that fleeting moment, I caught a glimpse of Chaos the man, no longer focused on Maria, pivoted back with the speed of a striking serpent, and I realized the peril we were still ensnared in. But as dread coiled within my chest, and as I lunged to catch my daughter, a high-pitched scream pierced through the air, the otherworldly sound of someone confronting their worst nightmare. From behind us, out of the corner of my eye, I saw an unexpected figure cloaked in a fading light, rushing forward toward the storm. And then there was silence. The echo of devastation washed over me like a torrential wave as my heart stalled in breathless anticipation. What fate awaited us in the suffocating darkness? Would we finally find the courage to break free from our torment, or had the storm possessed us to the very end, leaving behind nothing but fragmented remnants of our shattered lives? The silence weighed heavy in the air, and for a moment, time seemed to stall as I grasped the ramifications of the figure stepping into the dim light. My breath quickened, heart hammering relentlessly against my ribs. Who was this brave soul charging into the chaos? And more importantly, would they save us, or drag us further into the abyss? Stay close, Lily. I yelled, as dread coiled tighter around my heart. The shadows seemed to thicken around us, wrapping every corner of the hallway in a shroud of menace. The only sound I could hear was the pounding of thunder outside, a soundtrack to the turmoil within our fragile sanctuary. The figure emerged rushing towards us with a determined speed. It was more than I dared hope for, but what would it cost us? My thoughts raced, tangled with thoughts of escape and fear. Mom! Lily cried, her voice a fragile note breaking through my chaotic thoughts. I turned just in time to see the figure no longer a mere shadow, but a woman I recognized. Rosa, our cleaning lady, the woman who had brought a spark of warmth and laughter into our home, now stood before us with an impossible fire in her eyes. Lynn. We need to move. She shouted, urgency fueling her words. I had never seen Rosa like this before, her usual gentle demeanor replaced by an intensity that shocked me. She had risked everything to come here, and I could scarcely comprehend why. Rosa, what are you doing? I stammered, simultaneously filled with gratitude and fear for her safety. You shouldn't be here. It's dangerous. Not as dangerous as leaving you two alone, she replied fiercely, glancing over her shoulder, fear glimmering behind her steadfast gaze. He's coming. We have to go now. I felt a mix of hope and despair wash over me. Simeon brave enough to stand up against this nightmare. Could we truly escape? As my heart swelled with conflicting emotions, I grasped Lily's hand tighter, trying to shield her from the growing tempest. Follow me. Rosa commanded, leading us toward the back exit of the house. With every step, the storm outside seemed to match the fray of our internal struggle, a torrent of grief and terror threatening to drown us under its weight. Then the man burst into the hallway, laughter echoing around us, taunting and sinister. Did you think you could escape that easily? He bellowed, his voice like ice slicing through the warmth Rosa's presence momentarily bestowed. You think you can save her, woman? You have no idea what you're dealing with. Rosa turned to face him, the tremor in her hands betraying the fierce resolve in her voice. You don't own them. You will never own them. With a boldness that caught me off guard, she stepped forward, drawing his attention, a sacrificial display that made my heart lurch. Rosa, don't. Get back. I screamed, but my plea fell on deaf ears as she continued to stand her ground, as if daring him to approach. In that moment, I could feel any remnants of hope slipping away. I glanced at Lily, whose eyes were wide with a mix of fear and admiration, desperate to mirror the bravery Rosa displayed. I didn't want her to witness any more violence. I wanted to shield her from every darkness spilling into our lives. "Lynn," Rosa said, her voice steady despite the looming dread. "Get Lily out of here. I can hold him off, but you need to go. Take her and run." "No. I won't leave you," I shouted, half in disbelief, half in panic. "I won't ask you again." She barked, the fire of her spirit pushing through the tumult. "You're her mom, protect her. That's your only job now. Don't let this monster take away your light." With those words igniting a flicker of strength buried deep within me, I realized she was right. My duty was clear. I had to protect Lily, the one I had fought so fiercely for, the one who relied on me for safety in this wicked storm. "Please, let's go, baby," I urged, my voice trembling as I gripped Lily's small hand tighter. As if sensing that she was the pulse of my being, Lily nodded, her fear transformed into resolute trust. But as we turned to flee, the air shifted. The man lunged forward toward Rosa, a wicked smile painting his face as if he'd been handed a gift. "You think you can sacrifice yourself for them? This will only end in pain." The clash echoed harshly in my ears as I pulled Lily along, my heart pounding in unison with the storm that raged outside. I glanced back, catching the briefest of glimpses the chaos of struggle, Rosa's fierce defiance contrasting against the relentless darkness, and somehow, within all that despair, a thread of light began to emerge, but in that very instant, a deafening clap of thunder ruptured the air, and the lights flickered violently, casting jagged shadows across the walls. The very foundation of our home seemed to groan under the pressure, the storm intensifying, matching the tumult of our lives. With our world on the precipice of collapse, a wild thought intruded on my thoughts: was this the end? Then, almost as if fate had conspired against us, the walls began to tremble. A crack spread across the ceiling above us, dust and debris raining down like the fragments of our normal lives. "Run!" I commanded, urgency gripping me fiercely once more. But even as I urged Lily forward, fear and uncertainty clawed at my heart. I couldn't shake the lingering question: would we keep running and somehow find deliverance, or was there an insidious truth lurking in the chaotic shadows, one that would change our lives forever? As we dashed toward the door, the weight of Rosa's sacrifice pressed across my chest, a heavy truth I had not yet accepted. And just as we burst through the exit, the last thing I heard was the sound of shattering glass, followed by the cruel laughter rippling like a dark wave behind us. With the storm at our backs and the threat still looming within, dread seeped into my very bones as I turned to Lily. "We have to keep going, sweetheart," I said, though deep inside, a storm of uncertainty raged anew. Could we truly outrun the darkness that seemed intent on reclaiming what was rightfully ours? The rain poured down in sheets, each drop colliding with the ground in a frenzied rhythm that mirrored the beating of my heart. The frigid air wrapped around us like a cocoon, but even the cold couldn't overshadow the warmth of Rosa's sacrifice, nor could it dampen the leaden dread in my chest. As we sprinted away from the house, I held Lily's hand as if it were the last tether to sanity in this spiraling chaos. "Mom, where's Rosa?" Lily's small voice trembled, her innocence wrapped in confusion and fear. I couldn't answer, couldn't bear to shatter her fragile world further with the truth. Instead, I tightened my grip and pushed forward into the storm, the wind howling around us like mourning spirits. "Keep moving, baby. We need to find somewhere safe," I forced out, each word a struggle against the lump lodged in my throat. Memories of laughter and shared moments with Rosa flickered through my mind. She was more than just our cleaning lady, she had been a guardian of our laughter, a soft embrace in a world that often felt too harsh. As we navigated the blinding rain, I spotted a small shed up ahead, its silhouette barely visible against the raging storm. It was a dilapidated structure, but in this moment, it gleamed like a beacon of hope. "There." I pointed to it, and Lily nodded, quickening her steps, desperation fueling her tiny legs as we dashed toward the entrance. Inside, the air smelled of damp earth and forgotten memories. Dust motes danced in the few beams of light that managed to seep through the cracks. We huddled together in the shadows, our breathing heavy against the pounding rain outside. I tried to catch my breath, but my mind was a tempest of doubt. Would we find safety here, or were we merely pausing to wait for the storm to find us again, Mom? Lily's voice broke through my thoughts, soft and hesitant. What's going to happen now? The innocence in her question sliced through me, and I realized that she deserved better than the tumult of uncertainty I carried like a leaden weight. I don't know, sweetheart, I whispered, my heart aching for her to have the kind of life free from fear and darkness. But I promise we're going to keep fighting. We're going to find help. As I spoke, I felt a flicker of resolve igniting within me, a spark lit by Rosa's courage. Suddenly, a distant rumble broke through the storm's din, but it wasn't thunder. My heart raced as I strained to listen. It was obviously a possible ally or savior. I grabbed Lily's hand, leading her to a dilapidated window that overlooked the road. Peering out, I squinted against the sheets of rain and caught sight of headlights cutting through the storm. That it could be someone trying to help us, I said, trying to infuse my voice with hope, though the gnawing fear of what was really out there gnawed at my insides. Lily's eyes sparkled with an innocent hope, a reflection of everything I couldn't afford to dismiss. Even in times of despair did I open the flimsy door of the shed a crack, the wind threatening to push it back against me. As I peered outside, I saw the vehicle, a nondescript van parked awkwardly on the gravel road, far enough away that I couldn't make out the driver. My heart pounded as I stepped back, weighing our options. What if it was a trap? But could we afford to ignore a potential escape? Lily, stay here, I said, my voice steady despite the fear bubbling beneath the surface. I squeezed her shoulder gently before stepping out into the rain. The chaos of the storm roared around me, but I pushed forward toward the van, desperation giving me wings. Approaching cautiously, I noticed the driver's side door swinging open. A figure emerged, their face obscured by the downpour and the shadows around us. Hello. I called out, my heart hammering in my chest with hope and fear mingling into a heady concoction that threatened to paralyze me. Please, I'm not here to hurt you, a voice echoed back, surprisingly calm amidst the turmoil. I'm looking for survivors. I know what's happening. I can help you. Hope surged through me, and for a fleeting moment, I felt as if a ray of sunlight had broken through the suffocating darkness that threatened to consume us. But still, hesitation lingered at the edges of my mind. Help? How do I know you're not one of them? I pressed, suspicion lacing my words. Because I risked everything to find you. The figure stepped closer, partially illuminated by the faint glow from the van's light. My breath caught in my throat as he pulled off his hood, revealing a familiar face, a local boy from the neighborhood I used to mentor before everything fell apart, Ben. I gasped, disbelief mingling with relief. How did you? There's no time. We have to go. He insisted urgently, glancing around as if he could sense the darkness closing in. They're out there looking for you, and it won't be long before they find me too. The storm raged as uncertainty wrapped around me once more. Could he truly be trusted? The world outside felt like a ravenous beast, waiting to consume us both. But looking back toward the shed, I envisioned Lily's frightened face and remembered Rosa. Would I let fear dictate our fate again? Okay. I'll come with you, I responded, steeling my resolve. But only if Lily can come too. He nodded quickly, urgency bubbling in his movements. Of course, let's hurry. As I turned to race back to the shed, a chilling thought pierced through the storm. What if the kindness Ben offered was merely a ruse? My heart plummeted, but there was no time for doubts as I ran back to Lily, shouting her name, fear and determination surging through me. Lily, we have to go. But as I reached the entrance, the ground beneath me trembled ominously. A jagged crack split the earth nearby, followed by the low rumble of ice-cold laughter echoing through the storm, unmistakably familiar. No. I gasped, dread slithering down my spine as I turned to face the direction the voice came from. Ben's face twisted in instant recognition, horror dawning on his features. Lynn. Get out! His words were abruptly cut off by another tremor, the ground shaking violently as our path ahead began to crumble. My heart raced as I grabbed Lily, pulling her toward the van, but I was keenly aware of something darker pushing its way through the cracks of my sanctuary. Then I heard Ida cry that extinguished the flicker of hope in my heart, turning to ash, Rosa. The name spilled from my lips, but the storm drowned it out, leaving the haunting echo as we prepared to delve headfirst into an abyss I couldn't begin to fathom. The darkness was ascending, and what awaited us could drag us deeper into despair or thrust us into a fight we might not survive. The rain fell heavier, as if it were trying to drown out the horror that washed over me. I could feel the tremors beneath my feet, each rumble echoing the thud of my heart. Rosa, I whispered, choking on the name, my chest tightening as I clutched Lily's hand, trying to keep her anchored amidst the chaos surrounding us. Mom, what's wrong? She asked, her voice small and innocent, tinged with confusion. I could barely meet her gaze, every instinct in me screaming to shield her from the pain I felt clawing its way back into my heart. There's nothing we can't handle, honey, I forced the words out, but doubt hung thick in the air. I could see the fear in her eyes, a reflection of my own internal storm. I needed to be strong for her, yet every breath felt like an act of defiance against a suffocating darkness. Then, I saw Ida's figure darting through the trees behind the shed, a fleeting silhouette caught momentarily by the headlights of the van. My breath hitched. Did you see that? I asked Ben, grappling with the surge of dread that filled me. Someone's out there. Before he could respond, a sharp blast of icy wind burst through the shed, throwing the door open wide. I staggered back as the wood creaked ominously, revealing the abyss beyond the faint safety of our makeshift shelter. The storm howled, as if in warning, but I couldn't afford to listen. Lynn! Ben shouted, his voice urgent as he steered my attention away from the threatening shadows. We need to get out of here. Now! As he ushered us forward, I turned back for one last look at the place that had offered us shelter, a pitiful sanctuary against the raging storm outside. But the shadows seemed to shift, twisting in a way that promised danger. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. The darkness was alive, and it was coming for us. That we stumbled toward the van, my heart drumming a frantic melody of fear and urgency. Each step felt impossibly heavy, weighed down by the unraveling emotions I fought to contain. I glanced at Lily, her small frame trembled from the cold and fear, her wide eyes mirroring back concern. She was far too innocent to be caught in a nightmare of this magnitude. Hold on to me, sweetheart, I murmured, gripping her tiny hand tightly as we neared the vehicle. My resolve began to harden, fueled by the love I held for her. It was about more than just survival. It was about fighting for a future that fear should not rob us of. Ben yanked open the side door of the van, the sound swallowed by the gale outside as he stepped aside for us to enter. Get in. I'll drive. He urged, his urgency lending an edge of reality to our flight. As we scrambled inside, I couldn't shake the feeling that we weren't just running from the storm. We were fleeing some shadow bred from the horrors of my past. I glanced around the dim interior, hoping for a token of comfort, something to hold on to. Everything seemed foreign, alien. The van felt like a vessel encountered during a shipwreck, adrift on turbulent seas. Mom, are we safe? Lily asked once we were all inside, her voice breaking through my spiraling thoughts. I turned to her, my heart aching at the way her innocent doubt threatened to pull her further into despair. Yes, baby, we're going to be safe, I promised, desperately wanting to project reassurance when my own heart quaked with uncertainty. But even as I spoke, I heard the voices in my head whispering doubts. Questions swirled, was Ben truly our ally? What lay ahead in this storm, and what of the darkness that haunted my past? Ben slammed the door shut with a finality that resonated like a metallic heartbeat in the hollow silence that followed. I'll get us out of here, he said, his eyes glinting with a fierce determination that momentarily calmed my fears. But against that calm, I felt the trepidation rising again, the fear that perhaps even he couldn't outrun the shadows that pursued us. That he cranked the engine, and it sputtered to life, its sound cutting through the rain's chaotic cadence for a brief moment. But then, just as relief began to settle in, an ear-splitting crash resonated in the distancia, a sound more significant than the crashing waves of the storm around us. What was that? Lily shrieked, her little body tensing against mine. Stay close, I instructed, but my voice faltered. Ben's face shifted to a look of horror as he glanced through the rearview mirror. Someone's coming, he breathed, his voice barely above a whisper. The thrill of impending doom gripped the air like a vice. "What do you mean? Who?" I felt panic rise within me, a surge bringing forth images of all that we had just escaped. Voices echoed taunting, dark, whispering remnants from my past. They were here again, clawing their way back into our lives. Lily whimpered as the van jerked forward, the engine growling in defiance against the storm swirling outside. My heart raced, but even as fear threatened to consume us, I searched for something in Ben's eyes, a flicker of hope, a promise of resolution. And then, beneath all the chaos, I heard something that shattered the fragile warmth building inside me. A woman's voice, familiar and strong, cut through the air with haunting clarity. "Lynn, you can't run forever. You will face the truth." I turned like a bolt of lightning, eyes wide in disbelief, as the voice collided with my heart's own painful melody. It was a voice that spoke not only of fear but also of betrayal. The woman stood at the pool of shadows just beyond the tree line, a fragment of the past that I had never wanted to face. "Mom." Lily's whimper reached my ears, grounding me even as my world tipped toward the brink of madness. Slowly, as dread gripped my insides, I realized the storm wasn't just outside. It was here, in our very midst, whispering lies, secrets, and a tempest born of my own unresolved truths. I was caught between the love I held for my daughter and the terror I felt for my past. With every heartbeat echoing like a dark prophecy, the darkness that had been lurking finally sought to envelop us, and in that moment, fear blossomed in my chest like a malignant flower. We were moving, but moving toward what? The flickering hope of safety, or the icy grip of the nightmare I had tried to outrun? As Ben pressed down hard on the gas pedal, the mysterious figure remained in the rearview mirror, a ghostly reminder that we could never truly escape from our pasts. Fear collided with the fierce hope I clung to for Lily's sake, and as we thundered into the storm, I felt a certainty deep down: this was not the end. It was just the beginning of a battle against forces I had spent a lifetime avoiding. I felt the shadows tightening around me, a suffocating embrace of all that I had lost and was still clinging to in the face of unspeakable darkness. And as the night unfurled its dark arms around us, I couldn't shake the feeling that the journey ahead would lead us to truths I might not be ready to confront. The rain continued to pound on the van's roof, a relentless reminder of the storm that lurked just beyond our fragile sanctuary. As we sped away from that wretched reminder of what was, my heart raced with a mix of adrenaline and dread, the echoes of familiar voices crashing against my resolve. The shadow of my mother loomed in my mind, her presence in the darkness stoking fears I thought buried long ago, a fear that deepened when I recalled her words, a taunt crafted with care: "You can't run forever." Would I find a way to wrestle my past to the ground, or would it consume me once and for all? The questions churned in my mind, gnawing away at the fragile thread of hope I clung to for Lily's sake. Are we really safe? Lily's small voice cut through the cacophony, filled with innocent hope struggling against the fear in her heart. "Of course, sweetheart," I replied, but doubt crept into my voice. In the rearview mirror, I caught a glimpse of Ben glancing back, fear etched upon his features as well. "It's going to be okay, Lily," he said, the sincerity in his tone meant to comfort, but it felt like a fragile lie built upon the uncertainty we all faced. I quickly turned toward the back of the van, where the dim light barely touched the edges of our reality. My heart ached as the shadows played tricks on my mind, distorting our very essence, and I couldn't help but feel Rosa's warmth slipping into that cold abyss, snuffed out by the raging darkness searching for us. My breath hitched in my throat. "Well, find her," I whispered, even while doubt clung tightly to my every word. "Well, come back for her." Ben seemed to sense my growing anxiety, and he leaned back slightly, fear and determination mingling in his gaze. "The quickest way to safety is to reach the next town. They can help us there," he urged, pushing the accelerator harder, the engine roaring in defiance against the torrential storm outside. As the trees blurred past us, flashes of lightning lit up the sky, illuminating the fleeting shadows of a town we had once called home. Memories of laughter, warmth, and a sense of belonging crashed against the painful remnants of betrayal that echoed in my mother's voice. The once familiar streets felt alien now, each one reminding me of the labyrinth my life had turned into. What if we don't find Rosa? Lily's voice broke through again, tiny and vulnerably, a sound that pierced through my heart with all the weight of a mother's love. What happens to her? I swallowed hard, turning to face my daughter. She's strong, remember? Just like you, I said, forcing a smile when all I wanted to do was weep for the uncertainty that loomed over us. We're going to fight for her. Suddenly, the streets were gone, replaced by an endless stretch of dark highway. Miles ahead, headlights pierced the night, drawing us toward the mirage of safety. My heart quickened as I dared to hope. Ben, is that the town? But before he could answer, the lights flickered ahead, then vanished in a blink, in abrupt darkness swallowing the road like a monster hungry for prey. I felt every instinct in me scream for caution, for protection. A pulse of dread swelled, raw and unyielding. Something terrible was coming. The van screamed, tires skidding as Ben pulled to a halt. What just happened? Did you see that? That couldn't be a checkpoint. It's like they vanished. I was breathless with urgency, scanning the shadows for anything that might reveal the truth. Whatever was happening right in front of us or lurking just beyond it filled the air with a suffocating tension that tightened around our throats like a noose. That we should turn back, Ben said, a tremble in his voice. I don't like this. But the moment was upon us. In the distance, the familiar sound of sirens rang clear as day, a haunting echo weaving through the swirling winds. My heart felt as though it lodged itself in my throat, the impending doom rising like a tide. No. We can't go back. I shouted, every phrase laced with desperation. We're so close to finding some safety. Just then, a brilliant flash of lightning illuminated a figure. Standing near the road, their silhouette framed against the storm like a dark specter. My pulse quickened with recognition as terror flooded my veins. Mom. It was a whisper that left my lips almost against my will, but the figure was unmistakable. Lily's wide eyes reflected everything I feared, understanding the shadow stretching into our fragile reality. No. I grasped for the door handle but hesitated, uncertainty clawing through me like poison. Lynn, stay inside. Ben shouted, panic rising with each beat of his heart. But as I fought against that instinct, the need to confront the embodiment of my past surged within me. It's not over until we face it. I breathed, shaking with the truth coursing through my veins. As I shoved the door open, rain lashed against my skin, wild and unrelenting. Mom! No! Lily screamed, her voice a whirlwind of fear and urgency. I stood before her, my Mothran unyielding enigma molded by years of pain and strength. Lynn, she called, her wide eyes glimmering like black stones in the storm. You can't run from who you are. Something deep within me twisted, the hurt, the betrayal, everything I had fought to bury surged forward like an unstoppable wave crashing into the shores of my heart. That voice, that wicked yet familiar echo. It all began to unravel. What do you want? I shouted above the deluge pouring down, my fists trembling at my sides. I want you to understand the truth, sweetie, she said, those melodic words cutting through my heart. You've always run headlong into battle without truly knowing the cost. Your love for that little girl, could you ever sacrifice it for freedom? Never. I snapped, clarity slicing through my fears like steel, realizing it was the very nature of my struggle that had always chained me to the darkness I no longer wished to claim. I am not like you. I will protect my daughter at all costs. The shadows danced in her gaze, swirling like a tempest eager to capture me. Then you are already lost, my dear, she hissed, laughter trickling through the silence of the night. The game begins now. And in that moment, sparks ignited in the depths of my heart, a flicker of strength I had thought extinguished, awakened by the ferocity of love. With renewed resolve, I felt the weight of Lily's hand in my grip, the fierce bond between us anchoring me to the ground when despair threatened to pull me away. I turned and sprinted back to the van, breaths ragged but determined to protect my child at all costs. Get in. We're leaving. I shouted, urgency fueling my words as time slipped away like sand beneath our feet. True fear danced in Ben's eyes as he followed my lead, but I didn't stop to question him. The moment we were all inside, we tore away from the shadows, the storm still raging behind us. Each heartbeat thudded like a drum, echoing through the vast chaos threatening to swallow us. As we sped into the dark unknown, I glanced back at the figure receding into the rain. "You will never win," I screamed, the storm around us tearing at my resolve but igniting a fierce flame of determination with every syllable resounding within the storm's grip. For the first time, it felt like we were racing towards something, another chance, a new beginning forged in the fire of hope. Behind us was the anguish of my past, shifting like clouds on a horizon, unwilling to release its grasp on my being. Yet I had found a flicker of resilience, Lily's trust, the unwavering bond of love, and an undeniable strength that surged within me, illuminating the path ahead. And as the van collided with the horizon, the kindling of dawn slowly crept forward, promising brighter days beyond the storm. "We're going to be okay, Lily," I whispered, more for myself than her. "This is just the beginning of our new story." In embracing the darkness, I learned we were not simply fleeing, no, we were reclaiming all that we lost. With that realization warming my spirit amidst the tumult, we burst forward into the unknown, bound together by unwavering love, ready to face whatever horrors awaited us on the horizon together. "No more running," I breathed as the dawn began to break amidst the storm. "It's time to shine."